Hi everyone, welcome back to Art with Miss Ortiz. I'm so excited you joined me today. We're going to be doing a really fun lesson about monsters. So before we actually start drawing any monsters, I'm going to read you the book, I Need My Monster. Once we're done with the book, then we can start drawing our actual project. And our project's going to be our own monster trapped inside a mason jar, just like as if we captured it. It's really fun and I'm super excited for this project, so let's get started. I Need My Monster, written by Amanda Knoll, illustrated by Howard McWilliam. Tonight when I looked under the bed for my monster, I found this note instead. Gone fishing, back in a week, Gabe. What was I going to do? I needed a monster under my bed. How was I supposed to get sleep when my monster was gone? I tried to sleep, but it wasn't the same without Gabe. I missed his ragged breathing, his nose whistling, the scrambling of his uncut claws. How would I ever get to sleep without Gabe's familiar scary stories and his spooky green ooze? It was no use. Gabe would be gone for a week, and I just had to have a monster. I quickly climbed out of bed so my parents wouldn't hear me. Grown-ups have some strange ideas about monsters under beds. I knocked on the floorboards, then scrambled back under my covers. I waited nervously. Would a new monster appear? What would he be like? Was his snorting be as cheerful as Gabe? When I heard some creaking under my bed, I knew that the substitute monster had arrived. Good evening, said a low, breathy voice. My name is Herbert, and I will be your monster for the evening. Herbert? What kind of name is that for a monster? You don't sound scary at all. Have you ever scared a kid before? Well, no, but I have read all the best books on the topic. Do you have long teeth and scratchy claws, I asked. No, but I have an overbite and I'm a mouth breather. Listen. Herbert's panting was kind of scary, but it wasn't enough for me. Listen, Herbert, I'm sorry. I just don't think this is going to work. It's nothing personal, but I really need a monster with claws. Picky, Herbert complained. As you wish, I'll go. There was some creaking, then Herbert was gone. Some scratching warned me that a second monster had appeared. Good evening, said a high, silky voice. My name is Ralph. I understand you need a monster with claws. If you would please lean over, I will hold out an arm for inspection. I crouched on the edge of the bed, hoping to see a horrible, shaggy arm with sharp, ragged nails. Instead, I was surprised to see sleeky brush fur with smooth, shiny claws. Excuse me, I don't mean to be rude, I asked. But isn't that nail polish on your claws? Yes, it is, Ralph replied. I believe professional monsters should always be well groomed. I could tell this was not going to work either. I'm sorry to disappoint you, Ralph, but I need a monster with scary claws, like Gabe's, I thought. I heard some more scratching and I knew Ralph was gone. A minute later, a third voice from under the bed rasped. Check out these claws, kid. I gathered my courage and peered over the edge. The claws were impressive, jagged and dark and razor sharp. So far, so good. I was a little nervous. Could you stick out your tail, I whispered. Sure, but don't get scared. I peeked through my fingers at the slimy tail slithering over the foot of my bed. That's when I noticed the bow. Are you a girl monster? Of course I am, she snapped. I'm Cynthia. Do you have a problem with that? Yeah, I do, I admitted. I definitely need a boy monster. Boy monsters are for boys, and girl monsters are for girls. Everybody knows that. Well, aren't you a picky one, she sniffled, and then she was gone. Was I being too picky? No. I knew that my monster needed to be well-clawed and menacing. The whole point of having a monster, after all, was to keep me in bed, imagining all the scary stuff that could happen if I got out. Then I heard a shuffling noise and some slobbering. A fourth monster was under my bed. Hey, name's Mac. One look at his claws proved that Max was a big, scruffy boy monster. I shivered. Maybe this one would work out. Those are excellent claws, but do you have a long tail? I leaned over to see. No, my tail is stumpy, Max slurped, but I do have an unusually long tongue. Why would I be afraid of a long tongue, I asked. Oh, I don't know, he said, trying to sound terrifying. You never know when I might lick you. I fell back into bed, laughing. Well, if you're not even going to try to work with me, Mac whined. I held in my giggle. I really don't think you should send me away, he warned. Kids who reject 5 monsters in one night? I do not reject 5 monsters tonight. I interrupted. My regular monster went fishing. Fishing, eh? Maybe he just left you because you're so picky. Fine, I'm out of here, but I wouldn't expect another monster tonight if I were you. How was I ever going to get to sleep without my monster? I was surprised to hear more creaking under the bed. Loud creaking, with scratching. I thought no more monsters were going to appear tonight, I said. Sorry I'm late, kid. Whew, it was Gabe! I thought I would enjoy fishing, but I didn't, he explained. Those fish scared too easily. No challenge at all. You, however, are challenging, my friend. You're almost too old to be afraid of monsters. You keep me on my toes. Ah, toes, a delicious snack. The bed quivered as Gabe's stomach rumbled with hunger. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to start the evening with an ominous puddle of drool. I peeked over the edge of the bed. Green ooze spread soundlessly from underneath. Then the bed trembled as Gabe unfurled his spiked tail. He was daring me to guess where he might pop up. I shivered. So you had some substitute monsters tonight, Gabe said, sharpening his claws on my bedpost. Were you scared? Then Gabe started tapping. I could tell he wanted to know if I still needed him. No other monster can scare me like you, I giggled, diving under my covers, pulling them up tight. Through the blanket, I heard Gabe's soft, comforting snorts. Ha! I knew it. We were made for each other, he growled. When my blanket started to slip off the bed, I knew Gabe was ready to eat. Now if you could please stick your foot out, he said. I'd like to nibble on your pinky. I yanked my blanket back up and scrunched my feet in so Gabe couldn't get them. No toes tonight, but you can have this, I offered, pushing a pillow off the bed. I didn't even hear it hit the floor. Gabe was back. The ooze was perfect. Everything was back to normal. I shivered again. I'd be asleep in no time. The end. The supplies you'll need today is a paper, pencil, Sharpie, colored pencils, and some scissors. Before we actually start drawing our monsters today, we need to talk about what components we can add to our monster when we're drawing. So monsters have bodies, eyes and noses, mouths, and they have other things like arms and legs, horns, antennas, nails, wings, mustaches, and spikes. We also need to talk about textures. Texture is how something feels when we touch it. So we can do textures by drawing things like dots and bumps, vertical lines, hashtags, curved lines, scales, circles, polka dots, crosses, horizontal lines, diagonal lines, stripes, fur, wool, curly hair, spirals, or scales. So today to get started, you'll use a pencil and then trace over with Sharpie. I'm going to start with Sharpie today because it's easier. So the first thing you want to do is draw 2 vertical lines for your jar. Then we're going to take that bottom of the vertical line and make a smiley face to the other line. Then we're going to go to the top and make 2 hills on the side. Then we're going to add 2 vertical lines. The next thing we're going to do is make a skinny oval. I can even start drawing the lid to the jar by just drawing another oval under. Then the next thing I need to do is pick out a body for my monster. I want my monster to have a really fluffy body, so I gave him a really fluffy circular body. Then I could start picking out my eyes. I want my monster to have 3 eyes, so I'm going to give my monster 3 eyes by drawing a circle and a tree trunk so it looks like they're attached. Then I could start doing the inside of the eyes. Now I could really start getting dark and adding a little shimmer of white so it looks like the eyes are nice and slimy or shiny. The next thing I want to pick is a mouth. So for the mouth I'm going to start by drawing an organic shape. Then I'm going to just add bumps inside for the teeth, on the top row and the bottom row. Once I'm done with that, I can add some lines on the side to look like he's like screaming. I could even add some nostrils if I wanted to. And the last thing I'm going to do is draw some feet. So I want mine to kind of look like octopus tentacles, so I can start drawing feet any way I want to. Now, your monster doesn't have to have feet, but mine does, so I'm creating those shapes just by making wavy lines. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw some quick claws, just for the arms. So once I feel like I'm finished, I can start adding texture to my monster. I would at least pick 3 pieces of texture to color in with your monster. I colored in the fur, the legs, the eyes, and I even colored in the mouth black. But I would suggest to you to add a lot of texture. It'll really help your monster look more realistic. Now that we're done, we want to start making our mason jar look like glass. A good way to do that is to take your Sharpie and make a curved rectangle on the side of your jar. You can continue this all the way down that side of the jar, and you can also do it on the other side of the jar. And the last thing we need to do is color in our monster. Remember, we need to be coloring at a 4. A 4 is a heart eye emoji, which means I'm coloring in the space, I'm not scribbling, and I'm doing the best that I can with my coloring ability. So the last thing you want to do once you're finished with your monster is grab a black or gray colored pencil and color in your jar so it looks like glass, especially the one I have for my example. You can see how I colored it gray like glass. The last part of this project is cutting. We always want to cut away from ourselves, not toward ourselves. We can hurt ourselves if we cut towards ourselves. Cut away from your paper and turn the paper as you're cutting to make sure you're cutting on the line. You don't want to cut off the line. Make sure you're also being safe with scissors as you're cutting. And lastly, we have our monster in the jar. I'm really glad you guys joined me today. I hope you had fun, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!